haven't had to talk about Little Witch Academia for 4 good episodes. And I thought that was because everybody kind of realized where the show was going, what the show was trying to do, and how the show was finally going to go about getting there, especially after the revelations of episode 6. However, it came to my attention through our Discord that a lot of people weren't very happy with what happened in episode 7 of Little Witch Academia, and that the um, resolution for this episode didn't quite feel earned. Now, if you'll pardon a very bad pun, this kind of triggered me. I was really happy with how episode 7 played out, and really happy with both the themes and the content of the episode and how well they tied in together. So I took a look and thought the best way to kind of address the concerns of people who may not be enjoying Little Witch Academia as much as I am or on the same level that I am was to kind of go through this episode and point out exactly what's happening and why that's happening and what it's doing for Akko's storyline and the show in general. So, episode 7 comes off of the fountain revelation from episode 6, where Akko learned that Chariot worked real hard and, you know, failed a lot, but she always tried to help people and make things fun for people and show people the joy in the world and do that with magic. And that was how she eventually came about being who she was. This is a huge revelation for Akko, and this is finally bringing to light what Akko desires. And episode 7 really tests that. The question here is, does Akko want to be Shiny Chariot, as she kind of says a lot of the time? Or does she want to embody the same values of Shining Chariot? Did she absorb what Shiny Chariot did, and does she want to emulate Shiny Chariot? And I think the distinction is very subtle, but it's pulled into question by what happens in this episode. Akko can't just the past few or the past episodes. In fact, all the way back to episode 1 was really Akko wanting to be Shiny Chariot. She knew this character from her youth and she wanted that was her goal ostensibly to become Shiny Chariot. And she finds or she always searches for any number of ways to kind of shortcut that or cut to the quick. And that's what you have about, trying to cheat at the broom race because Shiny Chariot won the broom race, and that'll make her like Shiny Chariot. Or with the events of episode 5, that she wants to quick step her way to becoming Shiny Chariot. She wants to. And episode 6 reveals that there's no shortcut. Her search for a shortcut in episode 6 shows her the past and shows her that there's no shortcut. That she has to come back once she's earned it. So episode 7 opens on her realizing what a fool she's been. That her endeavors to try and remove the hard work from reaching this goal have failed, and she's turned it over a new leaf. And that's the first scene we have here, is that she's passing up, goofing off essentially, to study, right? And then the rest of the first half of the episode is really, really devoted to her studying and doing her best on all of her exams. Actually, there's a couple more scenes in here, but she gets mediocre results, right? In her exam, she gets C minuses, and she there's a little visible progress actually in her magic skills that she's able to at least levitate things, at least do something. Um, but she still can't fly the broom. she still can't cast magic with any reliability, but she can do something. So, and I think that's an important part here that uh, people say, well, she still sucks. Yeah, she still sucks. But she's, she's not getting F's on these exams. And I think that's very important. Um, so this is her just taking that message from the fountain of Shiny Chariot worked hard. I have to work hard too. There's not going to be any way that I can skip over this, that this is a path I have to walk if I want to be like Shiny Chariot. I think the more interesting question comes in the second part of the episode, where we kind of have to look and see, or it brings up the question, do you want to be Shiny Chariot, or do you want to be like Shiny Chariot? So the conflict here is that she's turned into a fish, and it's actually a bit more convoluted than this, but she turns herself into a fish. They don't have enough magic to cast another spell, and these other fish want need to be saved from this trap here. So Akko's dilemma, and this is all very clear in the show. Like, I'm not, this is not subtext here. Akko's dilemma is, do I waste my magic to get back in time for the exam, or do I do the right thing and help these fishes? Which she talks to the fish and she sort of identifies them as creatures that need to be helped. Now, the question, in a kind of cliched manner, what would Shiny Chariot do? Shiny Chariot, as we kind of saw, would help the fishes because that's the right thing to do, right? And I don't know if Akko consciously realizes this when she's making the decision, or whether she just falls back on what she knows, or her code of ethics and her morals, and whether those were shaped by Shiny Chariot or she's thinking consciously of Shiny Chariot. I don't think we're shown, or I don't think that's apparent. She just knows that she wants to do the right thing, and she's very consciously risking expulsion to do that. Of course, that doesn't happen. She doesn't get expelled, and she gets an A because in helping the little fishes, she also helps the fish teacher. And that's the contrivance of the episode that I think a lot of people got hung up on. That her studying didn't really affect that. Her just being a good person gave her the A, and it felt unearned to people. Um, that's not what the show's about, right? The plot leading on to things, or perhaps it's my magical girl background that lets me see it through this lens of, it's not about making an informed decision. Instead, it's relying on that code of ethics and those morals and what feels right and that strong inner compass. And that will eventually bring about the beneficial answer or the success that you're looking for. And that's an act of faith, right? It's saying the logical thing to do here with the trap is leave and leave the fish alone. But Akko doesn't do that logical thing. And if finding the fish teacher is somehow plotted out in this episode, it's not really shown how they would otherwise go about finding the fish teacher. Um, but if that is a snap decision, or it's a logical choice, or it doesn't require any leap of faith from Akko to abandon or risk this expulsion for doing the right thing, then there's no choice and there's no conflict and it's boring. What we take away from this episode is that Akko really does want to help people, even if that means not becoming like Shiny Chariot, because Shiny Chariot went on and became a witch in Luna Nova. So the choice here in this episode is really, does Akko want to continue to be Shiny Chariot and follow that path, or does she actually value and embody the values of Shiny Chariot, which is helping people and making people happy? That's why, or she chooses right. She chooses to help people. And that's why she's rewarded by the story and getting an A. The show is saying that that act of the being a good person has value and has morals. And this is something I want to talk about on a larger scale for all magical girl shows, that you can't rely on the logic. You can't do the best thing. It's a very Spock versus McCoy situation. Um, and the the element there of trusting in your heart, that's what the show's about, and that's what the show's trying to say. And that even in fact leads to Ursula reminding what she valued there, or as Shiny Chariot, reminding, spoilers, reminding what her values are. And Ursula's very, she earlier, even earlier in the episode, when she's, where is she? She's trying to coach Akko here, and she says, "What are my good qualities?" And Ursula doesn't realize it, or she's forgotten it, or it's buried deep within her that she needs to say in this moment. And when, well, what are my good qualities, Ursula? What? Here, listen to it. See, she defers it. She says, "Oh, anyway." Akko in this moment needs to be told that it's her strong moral compass, that she has the belief that uh, that doing the right thing will lead to a better world and will give her that happy ending, or will lead to success, even when all logic states that it won't and she'll fail. That belief leading to success is the key element from, not only every magical girl series ever, but what this show is so clearly trying to do. And that's the reason when Ursula when Ursula receives it, when she remembers it, she can become passionate about it again. And that's inside Akko, it's this radiance that shines out from her, and her inner strength that lets her not only avail the day and get an A on her test and continue with the plot, but also finishes her, not finishes, but moves on to the next step of her character arc, that Akko does want to be the type of person that Shiny Chariot was, and believes in what Shiny Chariot said, and wants to emulate her, because not because she was a great magic witch and that Akko wants to be like that, but because she made people happy. And that's the crux of this episode. That's why this episode's 10 out of 10. She gets it. Akko gets it finally, and she reminds Ursula of it. And I think if I had to make a prediction of where the show's going to go from this point, I think it's very clearly the other side that hasn't been addressed yet, and that would be the value of friendship. I think from here, we're definitely going to get a whole lot more with not only Diana, um, but Susie and Lot and the rest of the girls too. And Akko now values why Shiny Chariot did what she did. She now has a direction to go. She has to become better. She has to not only work hard, but try and live the values of Shiny Chariot. Now, she also, the things left undone are making Ursula, you know, connecting with her in some way, which I think will definitely be a big thing, probably for the finale, but also connecting with Lot and Susie primarily, and showing her how, and them showing how they can help Akko become a better person and become more like Shiny Chariot, but also Akko acknowledging and asking for that and valuing them as people um, that not only make her closer to what Shiny Chariot was, but provide her uh, support in general and make her a better person in general. And that, if I was planning the series, that's where the next 2 episodes or 3 episodes, probably right up until the finale when I would bring in Ursula. That's where I would plot this. As for the second part of Little Witch Academia that will be airing in summer of 2017, I couldn't really say. It all depends on where the show goes and how the show gets there. But the other complaint I had about this series was that, or not that I had, but that I heard about the series, was that the pacing was kind of plotting, I guess, or people are like, well, okay, I mean, I guess they did get there, but if they do it for 3 more episodes of, shooting the shit, oh, and that that kind of bothered me as well. And I don't know whether it's because I sat through, 200 episodes of Sailor Moon multiple times, and then, but I think even in episodes that have nothing to do with the plot or have, very little plot significance, you still have a ton there. Like, for example, I don't expect the whatever happens to bond Akko to Susie. I don't expect that to be anything super impactful to making Akko closer to Shiny Chariot or helping Akko with her studies at all. I think it would be very much an episodic problem that Akko will come across and will have to learn from Susie or rely on Susie or, you know, really discover the value of who Susie is and who Susie is to her. And when I think when you go about it looking looking at it in that way, that this is that if you go into it looking for the plot, I think you're doing it wrong. Um, I think that this is a character driven and theme driven show. I think it's about building the relationships and self discovery of Akko. I don't think it's about anything else. I think there's a backdrop. This is also something people brought up. I think there's a backdrop of magic's fading usefulness and the sort of incoming technology. Not really incoming, but just sort of how everyone else views the witches as passe. And a lot of people want to, or people that I've heard want to emphasize that and make that an important part. And maybe it is in the context of Shiny Chariot brought another realm of usefulness to magic in that she entertained with magic and showed a little bit more than you would normally think. But man, yeah, with it's not like that's going to be a core conflict of this show. Or it's not, maybe in the second half, the second core, I could definitely see that becoming a little bit more, once Akko is actualized and once she's become who she wants to be, then maybe the focus could shift from her personal story and growth and interaction with other people to a more societal one. And that could be something that's real cool, and especially if we get to see Andrew again. But for right now, that's not what this show is. That is the setting of the show. And everything that's meaningful and everything that really makes Little Witch Academia great is the arcs and the values and kind of the self-awareness. So I would be interested if anybody had any concrete arguments against what I'm saying here. Um, it just seems so clear to me as obviously what this show's trying to do that I'm really confused if anyone else would have a different way, or I'd be very interested to see anyone else make an argument for something else being the core focus of the show. Anywho, uh, yeah, still best show of the series, or best show of the season, right up there with Kuzuno Honkai. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.